Hi there, in this video I'm going to do a breakdown of one way to recreate the Powerline music system in Super Mario Odyssey using Wwise and Unreal Engine. First, let's have another listen to the system and figure out what exactly is going on. Okay, so the fundamental element of the system is the melody of the power line syncing with the background music. First we hear Tostarena Town, and about halfway along the power line it transitions to the Ruins music. So let's look at the specifics of what needs to happen to the power line melody. First, it's BPM sync to the different pieces of music. Tostarena Town is at 152 BPM, and the Ruins music is at 132 BPM. Then, it is also harmonically synced to the music. The melody is changing notes to match the more Phrygian harmony of the Ruins music, but retaining the same melodic structure. Then, what we want to do is have the power line melody and electric sound effects emit from the player character so it is 3D positioned in the world. This is important to note when we look at the Wwise session and how to sync multiple music switch containers. It also allows us to do things like add occlusion when the player is traveling past objects that might block the camera. The next element that really threw a spanner in the works when I was recreating this system is the fact that the first piece of music, Tostarena Town, emits from the boombox on the roof of the building and is 3D positioned within the world, unlike all the other music in the game, which is non-diegetic. Why is this important? Well, because ideally we want to keep the music within one switch container to make syncing with the melody more straightforward. However, now we have to deal with both diegetic and non-diegetic music simultaneously. Okay, now let's look at another example of this system. When you complete the game, it allows you to change the music to any track from another level in the settings. That means that these transitions are no longer isolated, and the Powerline system has to account for any piece of music and adjust to any harmonic progression and BPM. Also, the melody is not only synced via BPM and harmony, it's actually synced to the correct beat in the bar. This becomes more noticeable when the player stops moving, and then we hear the melody continue from the correct bar and beat in relation to the background music as the player continues to move. Okay, so we're going to go and have a look into our Wwise session. Now, the first problem to solve is syncing across multiple music switch containers. Why do we need to do this? Because we need the powerline melody to be diegetic and emit from the player character's location in Unreal Engine. It also allows us to apply spatialization, such as reverbs or occlusion to the sound if we want to do that. Here you can see on the left in the music hierarchy, we have two switch containers, one for the background music and one for the powerline melody. The approach I took was to use music event cues on the background music for every bar or harmonic change that occurs. These events simply change the state of the melody switch container, which in turn change the melody to match the harmonic content. That solves the harmonic syncing, and then for the melody BPM issue, we are using separate music playlist containers that have the same tempo as their associated music track. Inside our level blueprint, we sync the playback of the two music switch containers using a Wwise callback on the music sync point. The sync point in this case is when the music transitions to another track. And then we post the powerline melody to our player character's actor. For generating the powerline melody, I chose to use Factory Synth 1 inside Wwise, and the notes are determined via predefined MIDI segments. Earlier, I went over how the containers are set up with states to change the melody based on the harmony, but we also have a state change for turning the volume on and off depending on if the player is moving on the power line or not. The final piece of the puzzle was to figure out how to handle the diegetic music of the boombox, whilst also keeping it in sync and ideally in the same music switch container as the rest of the background music. Conveniently, Wwise does allow you to route audio from a music container to a secondary audio output, and in this case, it becomes a 3D bus, which can then be positioned and spatialized independently. Here you can see how this is done via blueprints. However, it is my understanding that you can add more than one 3D bus, but I could not figure out how this is done. If I did, then I could have also used a 3D bus for the powerline melody and simply attached it to the player character's actor. If you know how this is done, then I would love to know. Well, that wraps up the video on one way to recreate this music system. Thanks for watching, and for the end of the video, I'll leave you with some gameplay.